dreams was never fair. I'd rather be this starving artist, experience life now at its farthest. One blue sky, we are under, torn and shred now, ripped asunder. The politics, war and famine. I thank God I'm still here jamming. Train your mind.
So I used to have these nightmares where I would be on a road of ever increasing slope until the point in which the slope was so immense and the gradient was so steep that literally the vehicle I was in would tumble over backwards and I would fall into obscurity. It's like those dreams where you like barely fall asleep, but then you fall and then you wake up. But these ones would be like reoccurring. And so I took this image of driving up to a daunting mountain. The video itself doesn't necessarily display the slope of the road, but I almost gained a sense of what it was I experienced during those nightmares ever so long ago. But you know, it's from the greatest heights that you can truly see the most amazing sights. Is what it takes to create height has within it much depth. It almost feels like, as of late, you can never truly have a break. I mean, does anybody else recall the last time that you just went and, you know, like laid on the grass or something and just watched the clouds, watched the wind move the leaves, just listen to the ambient noise of the world rather than the ruckus and the hullabaloo? It's like, if you're trying to partake in that, then people try and take that away. And they're so stuck up inside the mode of constantly pushing that they don't think that it's appropriate or that it's what you're supposed to be doing. It's like you can't just go and just, you know, go and sit down somewhere anymore without people all of a sudden getting freaked out. And it's like you can look the most relaxed in how you're presenting yourself, but it doesn't matter. People all of a sudden get all nervous and weirded out by, you know, somebody who's just sitting down or laying against a tree or parked in the shade or laying on the grass, you know. And then all of a sudden you're ostracized because you have to work. And people are like, you have to get back to work, you have to go to work. And it's like this never-ending war. And people think that you have to be a part of it, so they constantly just try and, you know, put all these images and posters and sounds in front of you and around you that totally just disharmonize with the amount of peace that you're experiencing. And it's like they think that you are something which is threatening to their life, but literally you're just going around just enjoying the harmonious moment of the natural world, you know, the breeze passing, and you're not saying anything, so they think it's weird because you're silent. You know, and it's like, when was it a crime for me to literally just enjoy the passing of the wind and the sound of the birds and just be lost in my breath and feel the coolness of the shade? But you know, everybody works so that they don't have to. But how much of work is actually required? And I mean, do we actually have what it is that we already need fulfilled? And so what more are we actually punishing ourselves for? Are we gaining any more, or are we actually losing in our attempt to gain more? At what point in time are we content with where we're at? Yet, maybe those who see those who are truly content become upset because, in a sense, they're jealous. They say, why is it that I cannot do what it is that they're doing at this moment? Because I myself have all these responsibilities. You should have these responsibilities as well. But my counter argument for that would be, you are creating the responsibility that you think is required. That's why you have more responsibility than I do. It's not that all people are required the same amount of responsibility. We put on ourselves the amount of responsibility that we think we should have. Yet at times we see the responsibility that other people have, and we feel as though they should have the same amount of responsibility as we do. You know, and it's like, I can't go anywhere nowadays without stepping on the wrong blade of grass, which is going to trigger some trap and wind me up in a cage. You know, I can't even walk down the street at a fair and record myself, my life, my experience, and let's say there's conversation or music going on in the background. Well, now all of a sudden, I do not own my own moment anymore. Literally, if I try and upload this, it's going to create conflict with the algorithm that people use to detect copyrighted and trademarked material. And literally, I can no longer share the experience that I just had, which was my experience. Do I myself not have the right to own my own experience? At what point in time does another entity say that they have the right to literally choke me so much that I can no longer even share what it is that I went through? Is it merely because they have more ability to actually create the noose, create the copyright, create the law? Laws are created by those who can afford to keep them. And laws keep those who cannot afford to keep them from being able to make the laws. So, you know, right now I found my own little piece of paradise. Went on a hike. And then I decided to remove myself from isolation, because it can be kind of weird being out in the woods by yourself, especially in areas where there are actually large predatory animals. And it's like, there's always that little notion in the back of your mind. It's like, I'm just a sitting duck out here. I have nothing to really protect myself except for maybe rocks and sticks around me, but that's not going to stop a large beast from doing what it wants to me. If I myself find myself, you know, causing the beast to think I'm a threat to its security or its territory, which relates back to how territorial people are. and that the same fight or flight response is triggered no matter where it is that you go, in the concrete jungle or in the jungle off the concrete. Enjoy your day. Does anybody else ever feel like when you're traveling on roadways, you're traveling through intergalactic systems, like we're tunneling through wormholes, space and time, connecting systems together, which rotate and revolve around their own central axis, their own solar systems, their own beings of light and stars, and bodies which revolve around that which provides light to the system itself, the ever-flowing and omnipresent presence of the flow of energy. We are astronauts. We are space beings. And aliens are definitely among us. I mean, who isn't alien to you? In that things may be less alien, but realistically, nothing is exactly like you. And if we break down the term and look at what it truly means, it merely means unfamiliar. So anything which is unfamiliar to you would in essence be alien. And it's almost as if the earth truly is the center of all that is. And all that's out there is merely a reflection of what's here. I mean, it's all just one giant house of mirrors anyways. Even if you believe in conventional wisdom, an expanse from an expanse from an initial point, or an expanse from something which caused the expanse, whether it's ordered or chaotic, it's all of the same energy and flow and source. So while at the same time it is all separated, it is all connected. It's merely the transfer of information and of energy. Realize your intergalactic reality today. I mean, I definitely believe that it was aliens who built those monumental structures of times past. And if you don't think that it was aliens, then you're wrong. If you look at their society, their civilization, their beliefs, what they strove for on a day-to-day basis, and what they perceived to be fulfillment within a life is extremely different than what we do today. And so by definition, they are alien to us. They literally are extraterrestrials from a place far off in space, in that time itself is another location in space. And so if we travel back to the time in which they were, we are literally finding ourselves in a place off in the distance among a differing set of stars than where it is that we reside now. So they are literally extraterrestrial aliens in comparison to us in our day-to-day lives today. Has anybody ever heard the saying that better to stay silent than to open your mouth and remove all doubt? I kind of have a different perspective in regards to voicing my opinion. I figure that if I voice my opinion and literally jabber on about multitudes of things, eventually I'm bound to strike a chord with somebody. I'm bound to dig up some profound gold in the idea that it is which I carried on. The train of thought which I ran through its course. That which I expounded upon until there was nothing more to expound. And so, rather than being known as somebody who never spoke, because I could say nothing is said that hasn't already been, nothing is done which hasn't already been done, and seeing the futility in trying to actually discover something, or in trying to perpetuate an ideal that would possibly change the experience that we have within our day-to-day lives. Not that this idea would necessarily be relatively any better, but I think sometimes you just need to sleep in a different bed, and it almost causes you to become refreshed. And it's not necessarily that the bed that you slept in is any better than the one that you normally sleep in, but it allows you to have some sense of comparison, a different experience, which really just heightens both experiences, in that you see and are able to compare the two and have difference, which allows you to experience both as singular ones. So, in voicing my opinion, in voicing nonsensical ideas, in voicing things which I seriously believe to be true, then maybe when it's all said and done, I will have voiced enough that there is some piece of wisdom in there which holds true and stands the test of time. And if that becomes an actuality, then all of the pointless nonsense which was spewed forth from my being becomes pretty much insignificant, in that the one piece which became significant due to its remembrance, its importance, and its applicability, and how it actually allowed people to experience something comparative to what they were, allowing them to more fully experience what they were experiencing, I will then shown who it is I really am by opening my mouth and being a fool 99.999% of the time, but being remembered as the genius for that 0.001%. You know, I've heard people condemn the notion of it being healthy to have somewhat delusions of grandeur, but anybody who actually did cause a change or a difference probably had those delusions. Because if they didn't, they would see themselves as something which literally had no control over what it was that happened. And the more you believe that you have less control, the less control that you actually have, as your actions reflect your beliefs. So you believe you have no free will. In essence, you reflect this belief, and it shows. And then in doing, you actually have less free will because you failed to exercise the muscle and see the freedom that you do have. And the more and more you believe this, the less and less you have of it. The more you believe that you are stupid, the stupider you are, because you reinforce your internal beliefs so that the belief, which was once merely just that, a belief, now actually becomes a reality in your life.
Jamming. Train your mind, now hear my words. Twitter pated little birds. If you've kept up with all my posts, then your life's just like a ghost, already dead in the machine. The screen and life, one's in between.